So I was thinking of this. I'm going to have more money to have children, right? So I should get a job as a bartender. I'm thinking of working on a resume. On Friday, Thursday, I have shit to do. But on Friday, I'm going to start writing a resume. And I think if I work for a year, I can move someplace warm like Spokane, but intergenerational, like darker women, like Puerto Rico or Mexico or Guam. I just get off the disability. I don't really use it much anyway. I'd be doubling my income. I wouldn't have food card money, but maybe if I can double it, I could save some more money and get a nice place where there's more brown women for intergenerational genetics and also mixed race, which would be healthier for the DNA of the children. Like maybe Nairobi, Micronesia. Flat bill, greed-mongering, leftist, and name-only bigots. Kein Unsinn mehr. So the 2019 October study with the mice, hyperlong telomeres, they live longer and are healthier. But then 2019, there was a study in April about older men, the 35 to 55 years old, that has been going on since 2012. All these studies, like 30 or 40 of them. Those two studies are independent of one another. So what you're saying is Gen X dudes give your kids stronger DNA. So that would mean that Gen Z women would give your kids stronger DNA because younger women, we know. Anything after the age of 24 causes aneuploid retardation of the follicles of the ova. So if you were to connect Gen Z women with Gen X dudes, especially if it was mixed race, would have kids that live longer and are healthier by like 6 times the normal amount. Differing economic classes also do that, born in different parts of the world. So I'm wondering about the age phobia. Because if I hop on Tinder and I'm 40 years old and they're like 18, you're all like poo-pooing it and won't even give me a shot. You hold grudges against me like the Republicans do. Everybody, like the cops are like, leave this guy alone unless you're helping him. You just take and you take and you take because you're little age phobes. That really sucks because I support Black Lives Matter and I really fucking hate bigotry. Now it affects me personally because you brought baseball bats out on me. Steel and wood. Lawsuit against Starbucks. Lawsuit against Cloudflare for hosting 8chan. They host KiwiFarms.net and have been harassing me for 4 years. A lawsuit. Because you're bigots. That's why. Ableist, age-phobic. You enjoy racism. Republican, leave my city. Leave my state. Kein Unsinn mehr. No more nonsense. Sure. So, like, the greed. Like, where are the women at? That's such greed. Greed. Like, phone numbers of stunets. This way. I've just told you how it would create stronger DNA in a child. I can prove it to you. I'll show you the studies. Theory on the age gap thing that I was talking about. Like, because they're saying, oh, Marfan syndrome could show up because your father's older, even though it gives your kids longer telomeres, which doesn't make sense to me because Marfan syndrome is generated by shorter telomeres. But then again, you look at Marfan syndrome, and Marfan syndrome causes you to be like a dangly, thin, bad heart, glasses. Like if you had Marfan syndrome and you were like a guy, you probably wouldn't even attract women until you're older and have more money. So that's probably why that shows up. It's because, I mean, if you were Bill Gates, but you didn't get your money until you were 35, which pretty much is like Bill Gates, maybe he has Marfan syndrome. Nerds, thin nerds with glasses, with like bad hearts. It's like Marfan syndrome. Of course that shows up in older men because they couldn't get laid when they were younger because they didn't have any money. Which sucks because Bernie Sanders really like impacted Generation Z. But then again, I'm seeing a bunch of classism. I mean, that's all just like lack of empathy, which has been dropping because the red supermarket on Gyrus has been shrinking by a bunch. Empathy quotients, which they measure like intelligence quotients, have gone down 49% since 1979, and the average IQ has dropped by 14 points since the Victorian era. So, I mean, you kind of can link all this shitty stuff with the 20th century. Warfare, global climate change, segregation, the market crashes. For the past 200 years, since 1843, the first market crash of the modern era with the tulip, the stock market crash, the tourism of Denmark crashed in 1843. And again, there was another one in 1873. Around the world, so like the market crashes, and all this is generated by lack of empathy and lack of intelligence from capitalism. So, like, how can you not link the lack of intelligence and empathy that we experience now compared to like 200 years ago? I mean, what we know, what Harvard said about men in that 35 to 55-year-old age becoming dads. And of course, I mentioned Marfan syndrome. I mean, if you're like Bill Gates and you're 18, you're probably not going to get laid, but after you're like 35 and established. Because, you know, women are classist. Well, okay, but you all support like ACAB and BLM and stuff, but I'm not seeing hot college chicks line up at the homeless shelter to date anybody because of lack of empathy. But that's the thing, it's like, that's the opposite of your political standpoint. All these women that support leftist ideals, but at the same time, they're not dating under their economic class. Okay. College chicks are a bunch of hypocrites. I could say that.